Ladies and gentlemen, and now we will be moving on to our fourth plenary session, Accelerating Circular Economy in Apparel and Textile, the Role of Policy. I would like to request the speakers to please come up and take their seats. Mr. Mumit Hassan, Director of Business and Operations, Bangladesh Reverse Resources. Ms. Stephanie Schutemakar, Head of Communication and member of Holland Circular Hotspot. Ms. Gagan Mansal, Head of Material Innovation and Strategy at H&M Group. Professor Mateen Abdullah of BRAC University. And Dr. Michael Claude, Project Manager with GIZ Bangladesh. Requesting you to please come up and take your seats. Total duration of the plenary will be 40 minutes.
Very good afternoon to this exciting panel. We have 40 minutes, so we will be guided by the gong, but we will have enough time to have a nice conversation. Usually, and thanks a lot to the organizers, especially of course the head of everything, Mustafis. Mika was the moderator of the previous session. At home, they call me Mickey, so maybe that's the qualification that I carry to moderate this session. I represent a GIZ project that is involved in the development of social and environmental standards in the leather and textile industries in Bangladesh. So I was very happy also to see that the Director General of the Department of Environment was here. Now we had the very valuable presence of the Additional Secretary at the Ministry of Commerce. Ministry of Foreign Affairs is involved also in the P4G project. So this is very exciting because usually in these kind of events we see high-ranking politicians, but on the side they are also owners of factories. And here we have really the let's say, body of the politics with us. That is very helpful. But in this panel, we're going to dig a bit more into the, let's say, materiality of things. If I may start, I would like to start with Mateen Abdullah from BRAC University. Because, as we all know, sustainability, which is not circularity, but sustainability is usually addressed on 3 dimensions. And that includes the social dimension. And BRAC University, together with the Copenhagen Business School, has engaged in a very interesting project that is trying to map and identify where the current post-industrial waste flows go in Bangladesh and India, I believe. So why don't you tell us a little bit of where you are, what you have already found, and how the existing social net around the jute sector is constituted.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. So we started our project about 1 year ago. So our goal was to map, one of the project goals was to map the pre-consumption waste or post-production waste, whichever way you say it. So in that, we basically looked at the collection process, the sorting process, then storage, export, and we also looked at one of the narrative is it goes to India, right? And that's it. And the other places, other part is in the landfills and things like that. But we also found that there are upcycling clusters in Bangladesh. We found one in Pabna, over 500 shops, which take the large pieces, and these are all export oriented, right? In Saidpur, there is also a cluster with 100 or 400 shops. These are also export-oriented, and the SME Foundation is helping them with training and financing. So these are upcycling, and the interesting part is the other cluster, which is some of you might know that Bogura, I forget the Adom, I forgot the name of the place. What they are doing is they're doing something different. They are actually making yarn. So they are making yarn. So according to most of the statistics, even the BCEC is helping them. There are 50,000 people involved in this Shawalpur gram, and over like 1.5 crore worth of yarn is produced every day and sold to different places in Bangladesh. And then it's being recycled. So there are recycling clusters already there in Bangladesh. Of course, the big guys are coming in, recovery is coming in. But what I'm saying is, even in the informal sector, so there is livelihood that is there in the local ecosystem, right? So we need to consider whenever we talk about policy, or the interesting thing was I heard the word belling the cat, right? So hopefully in this panel, somebody will name the cat. So,
Great, thank you so much for now. This is really relevant, and we're looking forward to the results of the study when it's published as well, because as you said, to consider also the effects of any policies is also the responsibility of those who design them, and the social effects of maybe taking away some parts of an existing upcycling system is also relevant. Now, further down the line, reverse resource is a prominent stakeholder in this area. Again, we're talking now a lot about jute and recycling. That is not circularity, it's an element and it's a step and it's very relevant, etc. It's not circularity, but it would be great for the few of us who maybe don't know what reverse resources does and is, that you briefly explain what your business case is, because you're also involved on a, let's say, policy or a service provider level in advising and supporting other institutions in international projects, etc. But you also have a proper business, let's say. Yes.
Thank you so much. At first, I'd like to wish everyone a very good afternoon. It's really nice to be here, and I would like to thank Mustafiz Bhai for the invite. It's really fascinating to see and hear so many important discussions being happening and so many fantastic ideas being generated. So just to answer what you said, Michael, what we are doing, basically reverse resources, if I say in one line, we are a software as a service platform. Our main goal or our main existence is to provide the traceability of the reverse supply chain. So we exist so that we can provide the tool that can be used by all the stakeholders who are involved in the reverse supply chain. Let's just say it can be a factory, it can be a recycler, it can be brands, it can be waste handling companies. Whoever are a part of the supply chain, they can use and access our tool for making their day-to-day activities easier. And while using this tool for conducting their businesses, their a traceability would be generated automatically. So reverse resources is actually a bit different than any other traceability service providers in a way, because in our case, you don't have to get involved in additional data inputting activities. In our case, we have tried to design a tool that can help the stakeholders in conducting their day-to-day businesses, and the traceability or the trace would be a result of that conducting the business through the tool. Now, if I may say how we are actually working in this, so the idea is, in our case, we collaborate with different brand partners. In many cases, we also collaborate in multi-stakeholder projects where through the project or through the brand partners, we give trainings or give technical support to the factories so that they can get their waste segregated in a certain way that is mostly suitable for recycling. That's one part of our activities. The other part can be considered when we are providing the tools that can be used for, let's just say, how much waste is being segregated in the factory, how much of it is actually going to recycling, and to which recycler it is going, and what kind of recycled products are being made with that waste. So all these questions all these answers can be found by using the platform. That's basically how we are trying to support the supply chain. And just to add a little bit, I was really fascinated when I was hearing Motin Bhai saying that there are some circular value chains already existing in our country. The idea for reverse resources or our company is we want to make these stories visible to everyone. We want to make the story, we want to make the information transparent to everyone so the circularity can be achieved. You very rightfully said recycling or proper waste management is just one piece of the puzzle. Circularity is not just that. The idea is if you have the tool to trace exactly, if you know exactly where your waste is going, only then you can start having conversations about bringing it back, hence closing the loop. So that's what we can support. That's where we want to collaborate, and that's where we want to support. So that's who we are. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you so much. And maybe a brief follow-up question. Where do you see currently, both technologically, but also in practical terms, separation, cleanliness, or whatever, the major challenges if we only look at, let's say, cotton and RMG?
All right, thank you. I would like to say, you see, when we use terminologies like, improved waste management and efficient supply chain, these can sound like very big words. But what we are basically saying for factories is to just not mix the black with white, or not mix the cotton with cotton spandex. Some things that can, based on our experience, it actually, generally we say that it's easier said than done. In this case, we have experienced that it can be a bit opposite, because in our experience, we have worked with a lot of factories. I had the opportunity to travel around the world to visit many factories. When you first start talking about it, it may hear that, okay, I would need a lot of manpower. It's very difficult to start. But once you start it, then you realize it's basically just about making a few tweaks in the cutting operation or maybe the storage operation, and our tool can help you in keeping the data. So what we have seen, I think Gagan is here, we are doing some meaningful collaboration with H&M as well. The deal is, it is actually not so complicated in my experience. When you're talking about implementing segregation on the ground, there is one challenge, that is whenever you are trying to do something new, obviously there is this idea about change resistance that obviously comes because things have been done in a certain way for a long period of time. Whenever you're trying to make some tweaks or trying to do something different, that change of shift of mindset, that thing to enter a cutter man who's just cutting every day, just that, okay, there's black, I cannot throw white in it. So to do that, that is basically the major challenge to implement it, in my experience. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mohit. Now we come to Gagan Bansal, who is the global head of materiality at H&M. That to me sounds like you're the Shakib Al-Hassan of future technologies for H&M. So it's a great pleasure to have you here. And maybe if you connect to these previous discussion points, let's say beyond what we are facing right now, where do you see technological elements that will come up in Bangladesh, either from the material perspective or from, we heard from Faisal, the chemical recycling elements? Where do you see something that is closer to us right now?
And thank you very much. So let me just start with saying what Mohammed just said. First of all of us here, we have to reset our mind. We have to rethink, because we have to regenerate and we have to re-innovate. Waste is no more waste, it's a resource. And that needs the whole reset of mind. And it's going to take a lot of time, a journey, which I think we have taken. We have taken quite many years talking about it, and now we have reached a stage where we see actions happening. I just came from ITMA last week, and I was amazed to see how everybody is talking about sustainability, circularity, new processes, new machinery, to make sure that whatever we are getting out, there is nothing wasted. Even in a knitting machine, there is a SmartX AI that has been put so that the waste from a knitting machine should not be out, and as much as right material comes out so that it's not wasted. So in every aspect of it, the waste is considered today as very, very precious, and we are talking zero waste in that perspective. So whatever we create, and we know in our industry that we will not be able to make it zero because there is a certain aspects to it, how do we bring it back? And that is where the technological developments are happening. And last 2 years, when you said this position looks like I'm a hero, but last 2 years, we have been really going into the depth of all the innovations that are happening across the world. We started a project in Bangladesh with the reverse resources, with our suppliers. We brought them, we taught them, we said that, okay, let's segregate the waste and then give it to our recyclers. That was one part of it. But the second part, which we now think, and I think first phase is going well, we still need to take our journey there, but at least we have started the journey. So mechanical cotton recycling, I think we have reached a stage where we are saying we are okay. We still need it, but we are okay. But after a certain point, you cannot have mechanical recycling blended in your products at a certain percentage. The reason being, the mechanical you go, the shorter fiber you create. And you cannot have durability as a concern and appearance as a concern on your garments. And that is where the mechanical cotton recycling has a limitation. And when we talk about this, what is next then? Then we have few technologies which are coming up, and I would like to name few here. So in ITMA, we had a meeting with Reater, the spinning guys, and they are right now working on a spinning technique which makes the fiber, which is the mechanical fiber that we are doing, a higher length than what it is being reached today. That's one part of it, which is mechanical. Then we have Purfi, who's also talking about regenerating, and they have IP rights towards it. They don't explain the full technology, which is great because they have something which is great in their hand, and they talk about high fiber length. But they are also in a stage where they're starting off, and they are working towards, and we are doing pilots with them. Then we have technologies which are coming from chemical. We have technologies like Renewcell, IFCs. These man-made fibers are coming from the feedstock of cotton, and that will ultimately be used in all our products. Then coming back to blends that we have a lot in Bangladesh, we have Circ, we have Sodra, we have Blottex. All these technologies are coming up, HK Rita, which are trying to segregate the blends through different technologies and showing the path to the industry that this is possible. Lastly, polyester. We have a concern in Bangladesh about plastic bottles. We have not reached in Bangladesh the industry where the China has already excelled, because all the recycled polyester is coming from either China or India, where we have certain projects that we are starting now with Switch to Circular Economy, UNIDO. But I think plastic will be within the circularity of Coke. They also started it, the circularity project. I just heard in the morning that Unilever is talking about that they will use all their bottles. So bottles is not going to be the game for garments. Everybody will keep their own resources because they think that it's not a waste. It's their resource. They want to bring it back to their own industry. So we have to move towards textile to textile polyester. And this also is a very, very, technologies which have started coming up bigger. We have few technologies already existing in China, and we have some which are just coming up. So in sum up, I see that the industry has a lot of technologies right now, which are some are on the pilot stage, some are on the scale-up stage, and some are on the innovation stage. We have made garments out of CO2. LanzaTech. That technology is like amazing. There is no fiber involved in it. It's a CO2 emission that we have captured and made a garment out of it. So things are happening. We were talking about pineapple fiber here, banana fiber here, jute fiber here. All these things are possible and are happening in the industry. But how do we take them to a scalable level? Because all these innovations cost money. And that is where we need to come together as an industry. Every supply chain partner has to come. And that's why we are not saying it's your job. We are standing behind it. Leila said it in the morning. I'm saying it again. We are here. We want to work towards innovative technologies. We are ready for initial higher payments because we understand that for decades, nothing has happened. And now if we have to make the change, everyone has to contribute. So we will contribute there.
Thank you so much. Let's hope your consumers are also there soon. And now we come to Stephanie Scheutenmaker, almost, from Holland Circular Hotspot. And let me tell you a small story before we come to you. The cats. So some people have already identified waste as a resource. And somebody just told me behind the scenes that apparently there are some informal traders that get a lot or have been getting a lot of the waste outside of the factory doors. So apparently some of the producers and the factories have to deliver their cutting waste to these intermediate business people. This is not a formal process. And as was discussed in the previous panel, there are requests towards policies or to get that a bit away from this informal sector. It is apparently especially delicate because in some areas, this is a venue of income for local politicians or other stakeholders that are using that as a resource. This is a challenge for this system. So from your experience in designing circularity processes, etc., how do you have similar examples where, let's say, the ideal theory, because we have the technology, we have the, let's say, platforms, we have the producers, we have the brands, we have some policymakers who are interested, so we have a proper setup, let's say, but there is something in reality that is creating a big obstacle to make this happen. If you could just rely on your experience, if you can encounter some example that is similar to that and eventually even how you dealt with this.
Thank you so much for the question. I think that there are some examples of making sure that also the informal sector keeps a role. Of course, that's important. I think that should be on top of mind, for sure, because it's about the livelihood of people, it's about their income. We cannot just take it away from them. At the same time, we do need to change, but it's really important to look at how can we involve them in that. And I don't have personal experience in how to do it, but I do know that there are quite some examples. I know that in Latin America, they're also working with a similar issue with a quite big informal sector in the waste management, and they are also looking into and working towards including that informal sector in the formal to-be sector. The same thing is for the African continent. There are quite some nice examples. But we also have, for instance, Sweep Smart, which is active in Bangalore, and I think that's quite nearby. It's this region. And they're also working on how to make from waste something positive in people's lives, not by being an informal sector, but involving them in the solution, in a circular solution.
Fantastic. And is there anything else that you've heard now or in the previous panel that from your, let's say, broad experience in redesigning elements that you think would be helpful for us to keep here in Dhaka?
Well, I think if I look at the title of this session, Next Steps for Post-Industrial Recycling, I think that's not ambitious enough for this panel, and I think the panel does understand that and is also already touching upon that. Of course, it's a really important step to create like a proper waste management system or an infrastructure, but we do, or you do, together we need to have a higher, ambitious dot on the horizon. And of course, recycling is an important part of it. It would be a great first step, but in the end, also for Bangladesh, the bigger business models, the real changes that make like a system change should also be a topic.
Great, fantastic. To not make Morten and Sandra sweat too much, I think we would now, like in a proper Netflix show, refer to next year's Circular Summit, hopefully with these same panelists again, to see where have we reached by then. And BAE and Mustafiz has promised us that next year there will also be a technology fair, so we can relate also what is happening in Milan, and we will see it here in Dhaka as well. And I hope that we can continue this conversation and telling stories of success, of advancing, and how to connecting the social, the environmental, and the economic business factor to this journey. Thank you so much to all of you.